a minor character in his own story. This manga begins with the fact that we are told the story of the book, how one day the world changed dramatically, towers appeared out of nowhere, and monsters began to be born from the dungeon, who immediately began to destroy everything and attack people, and the world plunged into chaos. In particular, the Korean peninsula, which became famous as a region where towers and dungeons appear continuously, where monsters were much more aggressive and stronger than in other countries. But as always, when there are villains, there are heroes who fought monsters. Thanks to the heroes, people were gradually able to take control of the dungeons and towers into their own hands. People began to use cataclysms as the engine of industry. Thanks to this, humanity began to gradually get out of the plight in which they were. As time went on, Korea, along with the United States, became one of the strongest countries. Korea founded the world's best hero training center, which taught advanced magic and magical technologies, which attracted world-famous heroes to prevent the appearance of new monsters and dungeons. So the Cube Academy appeared. It was attended by cadets from all over the world who were able to break through the high competition. This was told to us about the world furniture. This world was created not by God, but by the author of this book. However, one problem has arisen. The first place among the first-year cadets is occupied by Kim Soo-ho. This is the author. Having received the first place, he looked at the world that he described in the book. When he was standing, he heard what people were saying in the distance. This year, the freshmen are quite capable, but Kim Soo-ho was the main character in this world. He was a hero, and the one who will lead the world in which there are monsters. Kind, fair, possessing all the qualities of a hero, as well as a special secret that he could not tell anyone about. Next, they present the cadet who took second place, Sin-Jon Hak, who is the grandson of an oligarch, the owner of a large company, Jin's son. He had similar skills as the main character, and to the core was an arrogant Bugak, who would become a negative character in the future. Now they were all cadets, but later Sin-Jon Hak, experiencing his inferiority due to Kim Soo-ho, will become a villain, and their fight will be like a fight of light and shadow. Here are the two main characters, and our hero thinks that he just got into the world inside the book. Then he does not understand who he is. If he is a character in his book, then he must have a name. Our hero was thinking when suddenly someone knocked him on his shoulder. The main character is asked what he was thinking. Did he go to bed late or something? Our hero does not understand who it was addressed to, and asked if it was to him. He was told that it was to Nim, and asked if there was another Chum Dong here. The author of the main character wondered if he wrote such a name in his book. He did not remember who he called so, and decided maybe he would remember later when he saw the face. He looked at the screen on which he was shown, and he was horrified. There was a question mark on his face. At that moment, he realized that he had become a character that he had not written about in the book. He has no appearance, no role, some kind of old-fashioned name. His presence is unclear what he is doing here. No one pays attention to him without a face. He is only called a cadet. He has no friends. He is the one who does not have any points of contact with the main characters of the book. He is just a character to fill the visual spaces. An episodic character outside the plot. The main character realizes that he has become a pill inside the book. After some time, the author received a message in which there was a question to the author, with a proposal to make a remake of his book, The Return of the Hero. The author thought, the continuation of his book has not been published for 6 months due to stagnation in the creative process, and this person wants to make a remake of a novel that has stopped coming out. Even inconvenient, as then a car thought in front of him, and sent a message thanking him for his interest. The author did not think that the answer to the request of a strange fan would cause subsequent events. In the book world, 2 weeks later, the main character is already a little used to having a question mark instead of a face. The main character understands that this is definitely not a dream, and that he is in the world of a book that he himself wrote. During these 2 weeks, The main protagonist has tried a bunch of ways, but he has not been able to figure out who, how, and why put him in the world that he created. Perhaps the main character will have to stay in this world for a long time until the plot reaches the moment when the release of chapters stopped. He has another 10 years. The hero is at a loss to think what he should do all these 10 years. Walk with a question mark instead of a face, and giggle with teenagers. After all, he has his own life in the real world. He does not want to stay here forever trying to survive. The author is standing at the sink thinking about how to get back. Right now, nothing comes to mind but to follow the main storyline. Suddenly, an idea comes to him. If he reaches the middle of the story, then the chapters will stop coming out anyway. Now the main character needs to hold out until the middle of the story, and for this, he will have to go to school. The Cube Academy was located on an artificial island near the Eastern Sea. About 5,000 cadets, including future heroes, were trained at the academy. It was a high-tech city where magic, advanced industry, and talented personnel from all over the world are concentrated. Thanks to Cuba, Korea was called one of the most powerful and influential countries in the world, and the center of this city is the main stage where the plot of the book unfolded. Among those who hoped to become a hero and had special skills, only a small part of the elite could study in Cuba. The character the author moved into was a cadet. The author did not know exactly what skills he had. He thought for sure something special once he was able to enroll here. Whatever it was, he hoped that his abilities would help him survive in this school. The class, Truth, is the central place in the cube, where there are positive and negative characters, allies and rivals, and also directly the main character of the book. Groups will soon begin to form, which will entail various events, and our hero will have to stay with them for another 10 years. Later, returning to the dorm and going up to his floor, thinking about how he could only study all day in high school, he notices a parcel. Opening the parcel thinking that maybe it's the personal belongings of the character he moved into, but when he opened it, he saw his laptop. Not understanding what his laptop is doing here, he feeds on it to turn it on. The laptop turns on. He is met by the inscription synchronization begins, then the name of the character in which the main character has moved in, and the inscription SP54 appears. Then the same inscription is issued only with the name of another character. Synchronization with Kim Ha-jin begins. After loading, all the characteristics and balls appear. The author finds out that this is his settings log, which he created. The main character could not understand who sent him a laptop on which a log was settings. Meanwhile, the laptop saw that the synchronization was 99% complete, after which a notification opened that it had received a unique right to change settings. All settings were suddenly reset. When the author looked at the laptop screen shutting down, he saw his real face. He could not understand what had happened and where it all came from. He wondered if this was really an epiphany, a phenomenon of awakening that occurs when overcoming one's own boundaries. In this world, such a phenomenon is called mischief. After it, you can see your abilities, techniques, and skills in numbers, as well as become stronger in a much more effective way than before. Now the main character sees the status window. The author begins to look at each indicator. The first thing that caught his eye was that the synchronization with Kim Chun-dong and Kim Ha-jin was completed, and the reset of the skills of the player Kim Chun-do. The author does not know what it was, but because of this, his face changed. He became weaker than Kim Chun-dong, but the indicators increased. The next thing that bothered the main character was the settings change window and skills. As Kim Ha-jin's knowledge grows to the extent he gets SP, with which he can create an ability. The main character was at a loss whether he would have to increase his knowledge in the book. He suggested that maybe his laptop was returned to him and endowed with abilities in order for him to join the plot of this story, but he decided that it was all nonsense. Then he saw the Undisclosed Information tab. on which it was written that this information would be revealed after the end of the main story. He thought if he wanted to find a way to return to his world, he would have to intervene in this story. The main character assumes that if he sits back and just waits until the plot of the book stops, it's not a fact that he will get out of here in principle. If this hidden information does not help in any way, perhaps by that time he will be able to find some clue, but in the meantime, he will communicate with the main characters, and for this, he needs to become more rural in order to withstand the conditions of the main plot. There was no concept of raising the level in his book. It was impossible to increase the indicators at will. The only way to increase the indicators were points, which were considered very valuable here, and for the most effective way to use them, you need to invest in luck. Luck could be obtained not only by opening unknown rewards in the dungeon, getting money, extra points, personal relationships, and so on. Luck is an ability that could be applied in everyday life. Of course, it was impossible to increase the constant luck indicators, but the main character can exchange them for SP. The main character thinks to try to exchange balls for SP to invest in luck and increase it. The main character invested 9,000 SP in luck and pumped luck to 9 points out of 10. The main character remembered his main character Kim Soo-ho that he has magical powers of about 9.0. The main character realized that he was very lucky and he had to invest the remaining SP in patience because he had to endure training in a cube. The main character invested in patience and raised it from 5 points to 6.6 points, and at that moment luck worked and patience increased to 7.2 points out of 10. After that, a warning suddenly appeared in which it was written that an error was found that could affect the probability of an increase in indicators. The main character can no longer change SP using immutable indicators. Frustrated, the main character realized that there are restrictions on tricks, but still he managed to increase luck and patience. The main character remembered that he had another 10,000 points, and he was thinking how to use them. The next morning after the morning training, the instructor introduced himself as his name is Kim Soo-hyuk and that his rating is 3,850 and ranks 9,737th in the world. In the rating of the association, he is at the average level with the 5th rank. After the presentation, Kim Soo-hyuk got down to business. He said that the cube is not a place for entertainment, and if they do not achieve the main goal of high grades, then they will start to lag behind. According to statistics, less than half of the cadets graduate from the academy, having never stayed for a second year. Heroes are brought up here, which means that all cadets will be evaluated according to strict criteria. Kim Soo-hyuk told everyone to get up and follow him. The first thing they will do is to determine the main weapon. They went to the company to teach, scanned their palm, and the door opened, where there were plenty of weapons for every taste. Everyone admired what they saw. Kim Soo-hyuk shouted that he did not give time for admiration, and that they should choose their main weapon as soon as possible. The selected weapons cannot be changed for 6 months, so it was necessary to think carefully about what to choose. The main character saw that all the main characters made a choice without any problems, and now it's his turn to choose a weapon. He decided to think carefully about what to choose, looked at his indicators. He can't stop at the weapons that other cadets use. Even if he wants to increase them, he will lose the effectiveness of investing points. Therefore, the main character has several conditions for the main weapon, such as the experience of using it in the real world, and he must quickly adapt to it. The main character notices what is needed. While he was taking the weapon, they looked at him with incomprehension and surprise. Everyone paid attention to him. Even the teacher. They asked him what exactly he wants to choose. He chose a gun. The teacher said that he remembers how the main character used a sword in a cadet school. The main character replied that he decided to change the weapon, and for this, he entered the cube. The teacher told him that in Cuba, the choice is always up to the cadets, the right choice or not. the responsibility lies only with the cadets. Other cadets did not understand why he entered the cube. If he chose a gun, some thought that he just wanted to attract attention. The main character thinks the pistol is the best weapons even in this world, especially for an ordinary person who does not know how to use magic. Here in this world, magic bullets are used everywhere. They are much more destructive than simple steel bullets, since they contain mana. However, despite this, pistols are not particularly popular due to the fact that they have obvious limitations. Whatever power the owner has, the gun already has a certain destructive power. This is the first reason. And the second is that the gun does not have any deep and significant history of origin. There are myths and legends in this world, as well as artifacts from legends. The longer and deeper the history of weapons, the higher it is in rank, so the cadets of the cube mostly preferred not modern weapons, but those that had their own history. They believed in their own strength, and did not rely only on magic bullets. And all in order to become at least one step higher, even if they reached the limit of their capabilities. It had nothing to do with the main character, because he is not some kind of main character. In life, the main character has never picked up a sword. Perhaps a gun is not such a bad choice, the main character thought. He will be able to cope with it at any moment, even right now. In addition, it is a great way to earn points for yourself. Since the main character has chosen a weapon for himself, now he needs to acquire the ability. An ability is a skill that can be quite called a supernatural skill. Usually everyone is given one ability, but there are exceptions. The owner of an undisclosed skill, and an identified swordsman's skill. After Kim Soo-ho's lessons, he was a swordsman. I went to work out in the training hall, where I met Chae Na-yoon. She was a shooter. After a short dialogue, Kim Soo-ho said that another shooter appeared in their class. Chae Na-yoon said she didn't recognize him as the shooter. She considers which one of him can be a shooter with a pistol who has a firing range of 1 kilometer. She thinks that he refused to be a hero, and that he is trying to get kicked out of the academy. Kim Soo-ho doesn't think that our main character is trying to achieve this. He told Chae Na-yoon that it was not worth throwing such words. After that, she started yelling at him, and said if he didn't train, then let him go. The main character is sitting in his room at his laptop, and it seems to him that someone is talking about him. The main character looked at Kim Soo-ho in his laptop, and that in the future he would become a better hero thanks to just one more skill. So abilities are very important, the main character thought. In addition, there is the first ability that can bring 10,000 SP. The main character cannot miss such a chance. To begin with, the main character decided to try. He discovered the sniper skill. He spent 10,000 SP to create this skill. The main character was surprised that the skill fixes everything by itself, regardless of which ranged weapon. He can use not only a pistol, but also a bow, plus a growing skill. Now the level is not too high, but it will be able to develop it. If you look at it in perspective, then it's even for the best, the author thought. Great, he thought, and chose. The main character thinks that now he is ready, and it remains for him to hold on to his abilities until the main plot of the book ends. The next morning, the students of the academy were shown that there were not too many problems, and they were told that they need to pay attention to examples of cleaning the tower and the dungeon. Meanwhile, the main character is thinking about how just a few illegible lines and a whole textbook turned out. If the main characters find out about this, they will cry bloody tears. Thanks to the skill of observation and viewing, the main character hears the lesson completely. He literally heard and saw everything. He can watch those in his field of vision, and even view a smart watch. And you can also open the settings tables without any means at any time. Chae to the south after the lesson asked if they knew that there was very little left before the exam, and then began to shout with complaints, "Why study this nonsense, because it is enough to demonstrate the ability in real combat." When suddenly one of the students comes in and tells the whole class to come out to the square in 20 minutes. Everyone was delighted, except for the main character, to train a real fight. At a lesson that took place outdoors, the teacher said that he hoped that everyone knew what kind of lesson it was. They skipped the introduction and immediately moved on to forming teams. There will be 4 people in each team: 2 warriors, 1 shooter, and 1 assistant. If nothing happens in the composition of the team, then the teams will be in the same composition until the midterm exam. Each team will include cadets of both low and high level, so that it is fair. Everyone was told that in order for there to be no riots, everyone should get used to their team. They began to show who got where. The main character could not believe that he was in the same room with Yu Yong-ha. It's always like that in books. The main character is surrounded by numerous characters who encounter him, talk, and get into the same stories. And among all these characters, Yu Yong-ha was special. The #1 successor of the best Korean guild of the Strait of Essence, as well as the heiress of a famous clan. At the beginning of the book, she was in contention with Kim Soo-ho, but then she fell under his influence and became a reliable ally. Therefore, Yu Young, for a very important character, was told by the author. The main character came up with the idea that the more often he will be involved in the history of the book, the more points he will be able to earn. He decided that today, during training, he must definitely find a way to attract her attention. Jin Ho-sung and Hazuki came up to Yu Yong-ha to say hello. After all, they are in the same team. Yu Yong-zie looked and did not know what to answer, and it cannot be ignored. And she replied, "Very nice, Mr. Jin Ho-sun, Miss Hazuki." Hazuki and John Ho-sun were thinking, why is she so officially, we are the same age. Yu Yong-ha asked where another team member was. The main character replied that he was. He knew he shouldn't mumble because Yu Yong-ha doesn't like insecure people the most. John Ho-sun asked he is the one who chose a gun for himself. He was told that he had become famous among the freshmen. At that moment, the teacher came and asked, "Do you have time for chatter?" The teacher sent the location of the monsters that the teams would have to fight to the smartwatch and gave the order to proceed. After they ran for a while, Yu Yong-ha looked at the smartwatch and shouted that they would be there soon and that everyone should get ready. Yu Yong-ha tells the team that information about the monsters can be viewed when they get there. Meanwhile, the main character runs from behind and thinks that it is possible to die. His physical indicators exceeded the level of an ordinary person, and he was just trailing behind them. The main character is surprised that this is the average level of cube cadets. They ran to the training ground #8. They saw a monster black humpback octopus. Yu Yong-ha offered to discuss the plan. A low-rank monster, he doesn't have such a powerful attack power, but the problem is his hump over his head. When he feels danger approaching, cubs appear from this hump and suddenly attack the enemy. Several dozen blood-sucking octopuses fly out at a time, and each of them is able to turn an ordinary person into a mummy in 1 second. As soon as the battle begins, first of all it will be necessary to destroy the cubs that Ha-jin must cope with. Since he is a marksman, Hazuki suggested. To which Yu Yong-ha replied that she would take them on. And she asked everyone to step back and save their magic power. She said that the octopus has a very fast recovery rate, and it is necessary to destroy its coffin with 1 blow. The main character was surprised, and assumed that she wanted to exclude him from training. After they had discussed the plan, they proceeded with the plan. First, they need to lure him ashore. 5th team, the training battle with the monster has begun. SP, which can be exchanged for performance points, increased every time Kim Ha-jin's importance in this world increased. However, from the very beginning, he was out of the plot, so it was difficult for him to count on high value. Accordingly, the main character had only one option, It was to personally intervene in the events that the main characters of the book go through. Right now, he saved Yu Yong-ha. Everyone looked at him at that moment. Yu Yong-ha shouted that she told no one to interfere. At this moment, the octopus releases a new batch of cubs. There are several dozen of them, but they have such low intelligence that the trajectory of their movement is clearly traced. The main character realized that now he needed to act, and that there would be no second such chance. Bullet time, a skill that the main character created. When using it, time slows down by 3 seconds. And this means within 3 seconds he can see where these creatures are moving. And then it's a matter of technique. The main character started shooting. After the cubs were gone, Yu Yong-ha tied up the octopus and ordered it to attack him. The main character asked in a tired voice if they had destroyed them. Then he lay down and said how hard it was. There was a calculation of the results, which showed a total time of 58 minutes and 58 seconds, and that they are currently in 16th place. The fight with the monster was over. After the fight with the monster, they returned back to school, where they were told that the video of this battle was captured on a drone, and that it would be sent to a smartwatch. Let everyone analyze it independently. Yu Yong-ha was sitting and couldn't believe that they only took 16th place. Personal achievements will still be evaluated separately. But she still didn't understand why Che had overtaken her to the south. Che Na-yun was in team number 2. They took 4th place out of 100. Yu Yong-ha tried to close the gap between their teams, but she failed. Then she sent to think, is this really all she is capable of? She approached Che Na-yun and asked how her practical lesson went, if it went well. Che Na-yun answered her and asked her how it went. Che Na-yun pointed her finger at the main character and said that the 16th place with that shooter is cool, and it's good that at least he doesn't pull down. Yu Yong-ha believes that he is pulling, and that it is precisely because of him that they took 50 minutes to get to a place when it was possible to walk in 10. Although on the other hand, his contribution to the battle with the monster was significant. A few dozen cubs that got out of the octopus, he destroyed them even before they reached the ground, and this with ordinary magic bullets. Who is he? She wondered. After training in the training room, the main character looked at his laptop and saw that he missed the alert. He received an alert that his opponent is a low-level monster, so the accuracy of hitting the target increases dramatically. All strikes were with an accurate hit, and the skill increases by 20%. Sensitivity increases by 0.03 points. SP indicators increase by 27. Today, during training, the main character used luck, as expected, and the indicators also increased. It was not for nothing that the main character interfered with Yu Yong-ha's plan. Thanks to sports, I have also improved other indicators quite well. All this is due to insight and luck. He thought, since the indicators have increased so much, that's enough to study for today. Yu Yong-ha was sitting in her room and reviewing a training fight, where she saw the main character shoot 60 times from a pistol. She wondered if it was possible to pull the trigger 20 times in 1 second, or maybe there is a continuous firing button. His reaction is not the same as the others, but health compared to others cadets at a low level. I also suddenly changed weapons. There are too many oddities in it. She wondered why she hadn't seen him at the Yvonne school. And then St. John Hack wrote to her, and they started a dialogue. Someone came to the office of the Grace of the Creator Guild. She was told that her visit was scheduled for Friday in 2 weeks. She answered well, and showed Kim Soo-ho on the screen, and said that there was something in it. Yoon Sung-ah is the deputy head of the Creators Grace Guild. She is ranked 307th in the ranking. His smooth movements, like the flow of water, and the sharp sword technique, which has no analogues in any modern technique, is like a sword dance. Ms. Yu-sama admired him. She wanted to take him in, but it looks like she is in some guild, she said. The next person she looked at was Kim Ha-jin. The guild community also talked about him. Thanks to the fact that he got into the same team with Yu Yong-ha, many people saw this video. They were talking about him, about his shooting. He behaves rather eccentrically, and in the academy they call him a heretic.